Hi guys, welcome to my channel if you haven't been here before, or welcome back. I love parrots. These are one of my 18 species and I'm hanging out with them today. What do I think is so super duper great about cockatiels? Three things. Super duper great about cockatiels. Three things. First of all, I'm Kaylin, the author of the Parrot Bliss Bond. Please be sure to get your copy on Amazon.com so you have your handbook and you know how to provide a quality life for whichever one of the 350 to 400 species of parrots you have, depending on how they are characterized or categorized. So I have two cockatiels here today. They are related. I think one is a brother and one is a sister, and they are sexually dimorphic, which means you could tell the difference between the genders by looking at the underside of their tails. But with factors, let's see what, so in this tail, I don't see anything, so this one might be male, which is funny because I thought this was my female. With factors, it's much harder to tell because since they have been bred for different colors, what happens is the color sexually dimorphism gets kind of screwed up. There's the spots. And those are the spots that, as I understand it, will reveal this one to be a female. And it's so funny because I really did have it backwards. This is Oreo, and that's Lunette. And Lunette likes my earrings. Don't eat my earrings. So here's the thing about cockatiels. These are one of the first species of parrots, of course, that were first domesticated, or I don't know if they're technically domesticated, but brought into homes and brought forward as a pet. So that probably right after the budgie, this is a parrot you're probably going to find almost anywhere in the world, including trying to eat my phone. They are parrots that are therefore super duper, I guess I would say maybe used to people, like a budgie. Now, they do tend to be more expensive than budgies, depending. Budgies, they're like $25 to $125, depending on whether it's an English budgie or not, depending on whether or not they have any special breeding. But these guys are going to be a couple hundred, probably up to 500, depending on, all sorts of things, where you get them, things like that. So they are pretty darn economical, and they make really good hats. One thing about this species is that it is super duper, super duper friendly, and I think super duper interested in people. Usually I don't have the camera moving around quite so much. And that makes them kind of fun to have as a pet, because if you get them off your head, then you might actually enjoy them. So number one, I feel like they're really sweet and friendly. I would say that they have one of the smallest hookbills in the whole Psittacine or parrot family. That means that in some ways they're not going to quite bite down on you quite as hard. Now they've left my video. Come here, sweetie. Now they're both back. And that's not 100% true. They could still bite pretty good. But these are really gentle creatures. I have never met a cockatiel that was mean-spirited, that instigated fights with other parrots, that, and I mean, I'm sure there are some that have been abused and who are pretty unhappy. That was really cute. Lunette tried to eat the little snow on my shirt. My shirt is one of my Parrot Bliss designs. It's supposed to be parrotlets, and it's a holiday shirt, so there's little blue snowflakes, and so she was trying to eat a blue snowflake. So they are just really easy in that sense because they don't get into fights with other birds. Unfortunately, they're not good at defending themselves for that reason, and that's the second thing to know about them. I feel like these are really very sweet, very affectionate birds, but not very good at defending themselves. So number one, I feel like they're really friendly, and I feel like they make just phenomenal pets. I think that's one of the reasons they are probably the second most popular parrot as a pet. But number two thing you want to know about them is they don't defend themselves well, which means they shouldn't be around predators because they might be able to outfly maybe something like a cat or a dog. But cats and dogs are pretty good at going after their prey. And these guys don't have much to defend themselves with. So I feel like if you have cockatiels, you really have to take care of them. And if you have other parrots, if you introduce them well, if you introduce the parrots when they're young, maybe they'll get along and you won't have problems. But otherwise, I keep my small parrots in the bird room because I just don't want them to be out and dealing with the big parrots. These guys, like I said, they don't really defend themselves, and so I don't want to see a thing happen to them. So to me, it's really important to treat cockatiels a little bit with kid gloves and just really make sure that if they're flying around in here, they know not to step on a cage where they might get their toe bitten. They know not to fly into the window. There are things that you have to sort of train any parrot. You kind of watch them and teach them how to be around whatever environment they're around. But with cockatiels, in some ways, I feel like it's more so because they just aren't going to be big defenders of themselves. So, number three, these guys, like I said, they are sexually dimorphic, but these days I don't think you can count on it because of the variations. But these guys, I would say the third thing you want to know is that I think in some ways they make an ideal pet if you don't want a parrot that is going to live 50 years. These guys can live 20, 30, I think 30 plus. But on average, I think they're somewhere around 20. And I feel like that's a nice commitment. In some ways, that could be the lifespan of some cats and dogs, but it's really like at 20. But it can be longer. And that means that if you really bond, I'm trying to get him to go on my shoulder. If you really bond, no, sweetie, go on my shoulder. If you know me, since I have 18 species of parrots, I don't spend a lot of time with them. So they really are friendly, considering that I don't spend a lot of time with them. But you could see they probably would do well with some training. She just flew on him. But I don't have time to train them because when I'm training, I'm usually training my bigger birds. And I'm not a big trainer. I'm really big on making sure that they have everything they need, the right environment, the right food, stuff like that. My background is more of an educator than a trainer, so you could tell. I like to understand them as much as I can. I like to really understand the species and understand how to take care of them as much as I can, and to me that's more important than training. And so the third thing with them is their diet. These are interesting little guys because on the one hand, they need pellets, and it used to be that people thought that cockatiels just needed cockatiel mix. After all, the name is cockatiel mix, and that sounds pretty confusing. Oh, look at that leather in the back. Oh, this is leather for making toys. Just some plain leather cord. In case you're like, wow, what's in her background? So people thought that cockatiel mix was all they needed. And initially, in the way back machine, when they were first being taken like to Europe, people didn't know that they needed water, and so they died because they didn't give them water. But these guys do, just like every other parrot, they do need water. They need fresh water at least once a day. Thank you. My little things on my fingers are just fine. You don't, yeah. I know you're grooming me. And so that's a good example. I like understanding that they are grooming. They're not being mean and picking on me. that would be, they're so mean. All they do is pick on you. Yeah, can you imagine? So they're grooming me, and now they flew away. So I gotta wait for them to come back. So yes, they need water like any other parrot. They need pellets because it does provide more of a complete diet for them with more of the vitamins and minerals they need. And thanks for grooming me. And they do benefit from some seeds. However, the cockatiel mix has sunflower seeds. And if you haven't heard me say this, or if you're new to my channel, sunflower seeds, ironically, in nature, grow places where parrots do not live. They are high in fat, and they are not necessarily a beneficial food or seed for a parrot. Therefore, your cockatiel, like many other small species like my parrotlet, they actually would do better with a parakeet mix. The parakeet mix is mostly millet, but it has some other things in it. And so I do give I like to give my cockatiels and my budgies a little more parakeet mix or millet than I do some of my other birds, and that is most of my quote-unquote seed mix. I'm waiting once we're a little further into winter, I will start to give out some seeds because, or maybe I'll wait a little until spring. Also, I'm going to start to sprout. Sorry, I'm going to be sprouting. I started to sprout, and I'm going to be giving sprouts out now because I'm changing their diet according to the season. But so these guys, they do need a little bit of that fat, a little bit of seeds, and that's something to know about them. But I have seen cockatiels come into some parrot stores where their beak's really long or their nails are long, and I'm kind of looking, and after the client leaves, I asked the owner, why was their beak like that? And they're like, well, it's not a young bird, and their beak just grows funny like that. But I also noticed that when they got food for their cockatiel, they only got cockatiel mix. So I think that part of that is a diet problem. And I've heard that from another vet, that when you feed a parrot mostly a seed-based diet, it screws them up long term. And I think, not long term, but not tomorrow, not next year. But it starts to do funky things to their bones and stuff, so they grow wrong because the bone, the calcium, like the beaks and stuff like that, they need the proper diet to really for all of themselves. And so one thing that I've also noticed, or I used to notice when I was bringing birds home, was that when I would bring them home and put them on a pelleted diet, one of the things that would happen is that their feathers would get really bright and beautiful. Same thing happens when they're spending time outside in the sun. Thank you. So, if you have the opportunity and you're looking at getting a pet, I think a cockatiel is one of the most inexpensive parrots you can get, and it's going to offer you some of the greatest value. While they aren't talkers like some conures or Amazons, they are whistlers. They're known to be whistlers. I'm not a whistler, so you can see that mine aren't learning to whistle, but they're incredible pets. I just don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything negative. Whereas with and I'm sure people have said negative things, but my point is, in comparison to like Amazons or other parrots that leave some of their people pretty bruised up. Now, some of that comes from really making sure you know how to handle a parrot, because they can be a big beak full. But I think this is one of the most undervalued, amazing, beautiful, congenial, sweet, and loving parrots. And certainly in their price range because they're relatively inexpensive to keep, and they relatively don't take near as much space as a bird that's going to be 2, 3, 4 times larger, that kind of thing. So just a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful pet, and 3 things that you want to know if it's a pet you want, so that you know that you'd be getting a fantastic bird. Of course, I always say with all my birds, I would get 2, so that when you're not with them, they're still being social, they still have their flock, they're still keeping each other company, and they're still happy. How beautiful, Oreo. Thank you for joining me in this blissful feathered video. If you have any questions about parrots, please be sure to comment below. If your parrot is stressed out, make sure that you get Tink's must-have parrot relief. And then I will catch you maybe in my Parrot Bliss flock group on Facebook, or catch you in the next video. If you subscribe, make sure you let YouTube know in the preferences that you want to know when there's a new video, usually tomorrow. Catch you next time.